Catchweight interview. I think this is number 20. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. Getting over some stuff, but pretty good for the most part.
What do you mean? You have like some injuries or something?
Well, no, I'm coming off two losses, my last two fights, and
Oh,
yeah, and it's something I've been dealing. It's been a little hard to swallow this pill because, in all my 148 amateur fights, 150 fights, I've never been finished. In none of my pro or amateur fights, MMA fights, I've never been finished until my last two fights. And, I was finished by TKO on both of my fights, and it was a rough pill to swallow. After the first one, I understood. I moved forward, and I understood, these things happen in
it
sport,
happens.
especially when you've been involved with it for so long.
I was gonna say, even like to your credit, like I looked at your record, like you didn't lose for like fucking 7 years. So it's like, listen, like all right, yeah, you took a couple L's, but it's like you went on a 7-year tear on like some pretty good Titan FC. I think I saw LFA on there. Like you've been fighting across the country, and have you fought outside of the country too?
Yeah, I fought in Greece. I fought in Corfu in Greece. That was my first time internationally flying out.
Right.
It was a cool experience.
Right.
I was having trouble finding fights in the States after I had an injury. I suffered shoulder tears.
Right.
After my comeback, after winning the CFA world title, I fought Jordan Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
And I won the CFA world title, and then I was hurt prior to the fight.
Yeah.
And I took the fight and ended up winning. And then the next week, I ended up getting the surgery on both my shoulders. And then when I came back 2 years later, it was like nobody wanted to fight me, even coming off the injury. It was crazy.
I was talking to a good friend of mine, also somebody who comes on the podcast every now and then. Blake Builder. He actually fights out there in Irvine, in California. He's going to be fighting a Lights Out promotion, I think. They're over there too.
Okay.
Blake.
Blake.
Blake Builder. He's also into boxing too.
Is it Bulletproof Troop?
I don't know if that's his name. I think he goes by Blake the Builder on Instagram, so I don't know if that's his fight name.
Okay.
But yeah, like he people are like dodging him, like like when you're successful and you do both of you guys are like little. You had is your nickname Pitbull?
It used to be the Pitbull because growing up when I was younger,
Yeah.
people always used to call me the Pitbull because I was always a smaller guy and I used to, fight all these big guys and beat them up.
Just fuck him up.
This fucking guy's like a pit bull, man.
Yeah,
so that's kind of where it came from. And then everybody started being the pit bull, so I was like, man, I gotta find some.
I was gonna say like people like sometimes people get that name or give themselves that name. Very few people earn that name. Your fighting style, you've definitely earned that fucking name. Like that, you are a little ball of fury. Not a little ball. You're pretty big. You're pretty big. But as far as your fighting style, you really bite that mouthpiece down and you let those combinations go. It's really it's very entertaining to watch you fight. And obviously your boxing background comes out a lot too. When I watch you fight. But yeah, as far as it goes, you've been fighting many different organizations. And as unfortunate it is to suffer those two losses, everyone learns from that. So, I mean, it's something you're still doing. Your heart's still in the sport. So
Yeah.
I would imagine that you're going back to the drawing board.
Yeah, definitely, man. Fighting something that it's been with me for pretty much my whole life, ever since I can remember. I mean, I could think all the way back to at least 3 years old, and when I was 3, I wanted to be a fighter. So it's been with me ever since.
That's so wild, man. So and you got your start in boxing, right? Like you had your base in boxing.
Yeah, correct. So when I was 5 years old, I wanted to go to a boxing gym. Rocky was my favorite movie, and every time I would watch it, I would just start shadow boxing in front of the TV. So it was my favorite thing to do. And I wanted to go to a boxing gym, but my mom didn't want to let me box.
Yeah.
So me and my brother would sneak away, and we would go to the boxing gym. And I would come home and get a beating for being home late. Like I would get home at like 8 o'clock. I would get home at 8 o'clock from training at the boxing gym, and I would get my butt kicked when I get home. So I would be in the gym kicking my own butt and then go home and get my butt kicked. It's pretty funny, man.
Hey, it builds that extra toughness.
Exactly, yeah, for sure.
That's that overtime.
Yeah,
That's great.
exactly.
So what's that like? So your mom doesn't want you to fight, and you keep persevering. At what point is she just like, hey, I'm just gonna let him do it because it's something he wants to do?
Pretty much, the way it happened was, so when I was 15, I started traveling back and forth to Chicago to visit my dad because my dad lived in Chicago at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to visit him for one summer, me and my brother were actually at cage side because my cousin used to fight MMA.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my cousin were cage side. Me and my brother were cage side watching his fight. And two guys missed weight. So one guy came in at like 170 pounds. The other guy came in at 155.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't let them fight. So he asked my cousin, the promoter, you know anybody take a fight in short notice? And he's like, hey, my cousins are out to fight. He's like, go ask them. So my brother had some experience in MMA and karate and stuff like that. Growing up, he did karate. I did boxing.
Right.
So the promoter came up to say, hey, you guys willing to fight? And I was like, me and my brother looked at each other like, yeah, sure.
Uh-huh.
We're like, where's this closest sports authority or whatever, sports store?
Yeah.
So we went like a mile away and grabbed a cup, some shorts, and a mouthpiece, and we boiled it in the microwave in the gym. And we fought then, and we both ended up winning. And then after that, I was boxing. Prior to that, I was having some amateur boxing fights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I loved boxing. I was like, man, who wants to grapple on the floor and like tangle up? Like all I want to do is punch people in the face.
Right.
And after that fight, man, I was like, now I understand why people do this. I was like, forget boxing. I'm gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, well, I also find in having watching your fight, and you're saying forget boxing, but it just doesn't seem like a lot of people have an answer for your level of skill for boxing, to the point where they kind of like turtle up, and you're just like, this is heavy bag times. So I just see you just look up some crazy shit.
Yeah, like one of my most prideful probably wins. It was with Mike Richmond. Mike Richmond was coming off a tear in Bellator, knocking everybody out. That guy has like dynamites in his hand. Right. And I was able to show like my boxing experience and my boxing level in that fight, like the difference. And he's a tough bastard, man.
That's one of the fights that I watched on YouTube, and you can kind of see him like just like his head stops moving, like he starts putting himself against the cage and get a little bit more defensive. Yeah. And you won that unanimous decision, right?
Yeah, and he's a high level boxer too.
Right.
He has some pro boxing fights himself, and he has heavy hands. He made people look in Bellator like they didn't know how to box.
Right.
So for me to do that was real. It was prideful for me to do that to him.
So you do you still professionally box too?
Well, I haven't had one in a couple of years, but yeah, like so I recently at one point in my MMA when I was I think 21, I was having some trouble finding fights. I just moved to Florida. And I was originally the bantamweight King of the Cage champion. I won the belt when I was 18. Like I beat Matt Jaggers, who at the time was 22-3, and I was only 1-1 at the time. Right. And I ended up winning the belt off of him. And then I lost it when I defended it. I flew to Mescalero, New Mexico to defend it, which was 10,000 feet altitude, and I was training in Chicago at the time. Right. And after the first round, I just couldn't breathe. I lost a unanimous decision. And then after that, like the promotion didn't really want to give me any fights. I fought once for them. I won, and then they were supposed to give me a rematch for the title. Right. And they didn't do it, and they just were kind of beating around the bush. So then I was like, man, I'm having trouble finding fights. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, and my boxing coach at the time was like, why don't you just do pro boxing? You already have the amateur experience. Just start boxing. And I was like, you know what? I can make some serious money in this. I might as well give it a go. Right. So I started getting involved training just pure boxing, and I fought in Tampa, and I was told I was going to be in the promoter's corner. You know how boxing works. There's an A side and the B side. So if you're in the B side, you're most likely not going to win the decision. It's almost impossible to win a decision on the B side. So
I was told. I don't know any of this.
Oh, you don't know boxing? So okay. No. So in boxing, there's an A side and a B side. Okay. The B side is just in case it does go to decision and it's close. The B side never wins. The A side always wins. The A side is the person who. So there's a promotion. So let's say Mayweather Promotions. Right. Mayweather Promotion always has their guys. So they have Mayweather promotion guys who are signed under Mayweather,
Right.
and then they fly somebody from outside like me to fight one of their guys.
Right.
So if I'm fighting their guys on their promotion, it's very unlikely that I'm going to win unless I knock them out. So that's how boxing works. There's A side and B side. So for this fight, I was told I was going to be on the A side. And comes the weigh-in days, I'm at the weigh-ins, and they thank my opponent's gym for sponsoring the event. So now my opponent's gym is all over the walls. There's flags with his gym name on it. So then I'm like, man, I'm supposed to be the A side and his gym is sponsoring the event. It's very unlikely because the way it works, also, I can pay you, if you have a promotion, I can pay you to be on your card and you'll put me on the A side. So I was kind of iffy about it. So then my coach talked to them. They assured me that I was going to be on the A side. Oh, we promise you're going to be on the A side. All right, cool. So I fight, and I clearly win the fight. I mean, I hurt the guy in the third round. I outscored him. All he was doing really is clinching. He was clinching me a lot, and I was clearly winning the fight. Turns out I lost a split decision. So after that, I was kind of like, man, like, forget boxing. If you don't have a promotion behind you, you're very unlikely you're not going to make it in this sport. So then I went back to MMA and I was having some success. So after my injury, I fought in Greece and then I came back and I was having trouble finding fights again. So I was like, man, I might as well stay active in something instead of being inactive. So I just started taking pro boxing fights, 1 day's notice, 2 days notice.
You have that. I see on your Instagram. You have like littered throughout your account. It's like, I took this fight 2 days notice.
Yeah,
exactly.
Taking
these crazy ass fights in short notice.
So,
this is amazing.
Yeah, so I was just taking fights like that. Like I ended up fighting a 2012 Dominican Olympian Willington Romero, who's undefeated now, 16-0, and he lost in the Olympics to Lomachenko by decision, and I ended up fighting him. I beat the dog crap out of him for 4 rounds, and they ended up giving him they didn't give it to him. They called it a draw. And they gave a majority draw. So one judge gave it to me, all 4 rounds, and the other judges gave it a draw. Again, that was the promoter's corner. He was in the promoter's corner. He was the undefeated Olympian. So it was like they really didn't want me to win. But everybody that was there like came up to me afterwards, like, man, you won that. I took that fight on 3 days' notice. So
having some like inside experience with this type of like, I guess, the world of boxing, like, does that kind of like turn you off to the sport a little bit? Like knowing that's a reality, like a big reality.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons why I really don't watch the pay-per-views, or I don't watch big boxing fights, because I mean I watch the outcome afterwards, but I don't watch boxing fights because it's kind of like you kind of know what's gonna happen. Unless there's a real big upset, like you knock him out, you kind of know what's going to happen. Floyd fights this guy. You know he's going to win.
Right. Unless he comes out and knocks Floyd unconscious, which has never happened. Like, it's not even come close. Like, you're not winning the fight.
Yeah, so it really turns me off. But for people that don't know what's going on inside that kind of in the inside of it, they're fans of it because they don't know what really goes on behind closed doors. It's like, if you know what's going on, it for sure turns you off from the sport.
Have you seen anything like that in MMA so far? Like I have a story. I did a podcast with him, but we ended up not airing it because he got hurt and we ended up not putting it up. But so I'll just leave the names out of it and the promotions out.
Yeah, for sure.
But they were pulled before the fight, and I don't know if this is commonplace, but keep in mind this is a relatively decent sized promotion. So they get pulled aside before the fight, and the ref says, if you guys get knocked down, raise your hand if you want me to stop the fight. Okay, so if you get knocked down and you get knocked down and you're out, you look like you're out, and even if he's far away or whatever the case may be, raise your hand if you want me to stop the fight. And then the other guy's like, he's like, I'm not gonna be a bitch. Like I'm not gonna raise my hand. And then one of the other guy raised his hand and he says, he's like, so are you allowed to throw knees at all, like on the floor? He's like, no, you're not allowed to throw knees on the floor or when you're on the floor or whatever. And he said, okay. So they just sit there and it was a weird dynamic for the ref to like pull them aside and like try to figure that out before the fight.
It is weird, but it's kind of like you are allowed, if somebody drops you, you're allowed to tap out.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if he just messed up with like, that's weird to raise your hand. Because the refs do tell you, like, if you're not hurt, give me a thumbs up. Like, let me know.
No. He wasn't saying it during the fight. He was like, they were pre-agreeing before the fight in the locker room. If you get knocked down and it looks like you're out, do you want me to continue the fight and let him and finish you, or do you want me to just close the fight when you get knocked out or knocked down?
That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. No, I've never dealt with something like that, but I have dealt with something weird before. Like I fought for XFO at the time, and I fought Pat Curran. Now XFO is owned by Jeff Curran.
Okay.
So the whole thing was real weird. So when I fought for XFO, I fought on the Tap Out show.
Yeah.
And so it's weigh-in day, and I'm about 10, 15 minutes late.
Right.
And they're like, hey, are you on your way? Yeah, I'm on my way. So I get there, and I see Pat Curran, and he's eating and drinking. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? So they're like, oh, you were 15 minutes late. You know, he already weighed in. But let me assure you, he made weight. I go, you're his cousin. Let me assure you. I was like, let him step on the scale now. They're like, oh, no, he already ate. I said, okay. What, he's 2 pounds heavier?
Yeah.
3 pounds heavier? That's okay. Let me see.
Yeah.
No. So he could have been 160, 165 for all. So the other weird thing that happened, so a week after our fight, I see him at the Naga tournament, and he's competing at 171 and up.
Oh, my God, bro.
So you were 145 on the day you fought me?
Right.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I don't know, like, the whole weight cut shit doesn't make sense to me to be, I mean, like, it makes sense. I understand how the science behind it, but it's just like, dude, like Cowboy Cerrone's at 155 pounds.
No, not.
You know what I mean? Like, so, like, I mean, is he walking in there at 155? I don't think so. I think he's walking in there at 165, 170.
100%, maybe heavier.
Yeah, maybe heavy. He's 6'1".
For sure. Because, so I fought my last fight, which I've always not been a fan of cutting weight. I've always been a fan. I fought, 145, and I'm a real small 145er compared to the guys I usually fight. And my last fight was at 135. I tried to make the weight because everybody would always tell me, man, you're small for 145. You should go down 35. You should go down 35.
Right.
So, you know what? I'll try it. I'll go down. I work with perfecting athletes. They're one of the best nutritionists in the game, and man, they do everything perfect. So I was real comfortable with the fact that they were going to be behind me and help me make weight.
Right.
Now, I made the weight, but I cut a lot of weight, which is unhealthy. And I walked into the fight at 165 pounds. I was pretty heavy for the fight. Right. So I'm sure he walks in at 180, maybe 185. But yeah, so and I felt like it actually did damage me walking. It was one of the reasons I kind of feel like I was finished. TKO'd because of it. I was getting hurt with shots. I've taken shots from like Mike Richmond, heavy hitters who are known for their knockout power. And I've taken their shots and shook it off like nothing. So being finished, I feel like it had something to do with the weight cut for sure. Yeah. I don't put no excuses. He did everything right, but I do feel like I was unable to take the shots that I'm usually able to take at that weight.
I mean, aside from that, aside from you just like you're obviously you're very humble in your response. You want to accept your defeat as it happened, but the reality situation. I mean, people. Again, I'm not a fucking scientist. I didn't go to college for any of that shit. But the general consensus I see is when you take a brutal weight cut like that, you have less water in your brain. So exactly. It's going to be easier for you to get knocked out. It's reality situation.
A perfect example. So I trained with Dustin Poirier for years, and when I remember training with Dustin and being like, man, this guy is world champion material,
Fucking clearly.
I trained with him back in the day when he was fighting at 45 from almost the beginning of his UFC career. Right. And when he moved to American Top Team, that was about 9 years ago. Right. And I was like, man, this guy's world class. Like everybody would tell me, who do you think's gonna win? Dustin or like whoever he was fighting. I'm like, man, Dustin's gonna easily win that fight. And then, you know, he would win some, and then he would lose, and win, and then he would lose. And I remember even for the Conor fight, I was like, man, Dustin's gonna beat Conor. And people are like, oh, you crazy? I'm like, man, I'm telling you, this guy's skills is legit.
Yeah.
And then he ended up losing, and I was like, man, what is going on? And I always noticed he was huge at 45. So I was seeing him at the gym. I'm like, man, you fight 45? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, man, he's giant for 45. Yeah. So I was like, man, you ever thought about 55? And he was always thinking about going up to 55.
Right.
I remember when he finally made the move, and I watched his first fight at 55. I was like, that's the Dustin Poirier that I see in the gym every day. Like,
right.
It's different when you're 190 pounds and you're sparring at 190 pounds, and you get this false sense of like, that's the punches that you're going to be able to take when you drop that weight.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, that's the Dustin Poirier I seen. And like, now you see that Dustin Poirier, like, legit.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we're seeing him flourish for it very well. And, you know, I don't know I don't think anyone knows, can firmly say, like, all right, if you're a betting man, like, you know, Khabib is like the heavy favorite. But
Yeah.
Dustin Poirier, I did not see Dustin Poirier come out like this out of nowhere to just like fucking unearth all these people.
Yeah.
and then make it. I mean, you did because you trained with them. You know what I mean? And,
yeah, exactly. The reason is like at 45, I felt like he was able to do that to guys.
Yeah.
But he was just getting hurt with shots that weren't supposed to hurt him.
Right.
Like he would get like even Conor mentioned that he buckles from everything, but that was only at 45 because of the weight cut.
Right.
And when he went up to 55, he was eating these shots like nothing. Like they weren't affecting him the same way they were affecting my 45.
Well,
there's no way that those 45ers have more power than the guys he's been fighting at 55.
Yeah, like, I mean, like you said before, right? So, like, when he's, like, sparring and shit at, like, 190, like, you know, he's throwing punches that he wouldn't normally be able to throw. It's like, but, like, you look at him in his frame and the way he moves, it's like, he moves heavy. Like, he does not move heavy. He moves so light for a guy who looks that big. Like, he's able to close that distance and get out and throw so many conversations. He's very technically sound, too. So, it's like, I think you're 100% right, and I mean, he's flourishing at 155. I mean, he almost looks big enough to fight at 170.
He could definitely have some super fights at 170 for sure.
Nate Diaz, I'd love to see him fight Nate Diaz. That'd be crazy as hell.
Yeah.
170.
I actually had a couple rounds in with Nate for when he was supposed to fight Dustin.
Oh yeah.
I sparred him for a couple. Me and the boxer that I trained, we did a couple rounds with him.
That's crazy. You're
unorthodox.
You do so much. I don't know. All these fighters that I have on my show have balanced everything, all these things, but whether it's different promotions or their family life or training and all this, you find time to go out there and you're cornering other boxers and you're cornering other fighters as well too while doing your own professional career.
My life is hectic.
Yeah.
When I think about the stuff that I got to do every day, I'm like, how the hell am I gonna fit this all in one day? It's insane. Like I'm training my guys. Then I got to train. Then I come, I share a car with my wife, so it's me and my wife with one car here. So
right.
And LA is huge. So then I got to come back, take her to work, drop her off. Like my days, I'm never home. Just let me relax. Like it doesn't happen.
Well, it's at the same time though, right? I remember like when I started doing any martial art really, but for jiu-jitsu in particular. My coach was like, you start getting better at this at most martial arts when you're able to start teaching it. Like when you're able to even if it's just basics, like just understanding those basics and imparting that on someone else. So I imagine that you take holding mitts for people and incorporating that into your skill set and sharpening your skill set.
For sure. So when I was 21, my boxing coach told me, he's like, hey, this kid came in, he wants to learn how to box, he wants to go to the Olympics. I want you to train him. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I got my career in front of me. You want me to train this kid? Now the kid that he wanted me to train was he had a wealthy background. He never been in a street fight. He had no experience with fighting whatsoever.
Right.
And me coming from my background, I was like, man, what do you want me to do with this kid? Like, he's probably gonna give up in this tomorrow.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
He's never had a rough day in his life. And, so I'm like, all right, I know what to do. I tell this pro boxer, I say, hey, can you come in tomorrow? I want you to spar this kid. And he's like, all right, cool. So this pro boxer comes in, the kid that I train comes in, and I go, "Hey, you're gonna spar today." Now, all excitedly, he's like they say, ignorant is bliss. Excitedly, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna spar." He puts his headgear on. He puts his Walmart headgear, his Walmart gloves. I'm talking about he doesn't know how to do anything. So I put him to spar, and he gets the dog shit beat out of him.
I would imagine.
Yeah, he gets bloody nose, bloody lip. And I looked to my coach. I go, "You think he's gonna show up tomorrow?" And my coach's like, "I don't know." I go, "Well, if he shows up tomorrow, then I'll train him because I know that even though he's bad and he doesn't know how to fight, he has heart."
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. Like if you have heart and you willing to go through it, then the skill could just come. Natural athletes, if you have no heart and you're a natural athlete, I'd rather have somebody with heart that has no athletic background whatsoever than somebody that has all the athletic background but no heart. Because you could teach the skills, you can't teach heart.
Right.
So the next day, this is the perfect scenario. The next day he walked in with his backpack. And he's like, "Am I going to spar?" No, he has a bloody nose. He asked me if he was going to spar again. I go, "Relax, slow down. Like, let's learn a little bit."
Yeah.
So I started teaching him slowly, and every day he would beg, "When am I going to fight? When am I going to fight? When am I going to fight?" Right. I'm like, "Man, relax. Like, we still got to learn a lot." So he kept bothering me. So a month later, I'm like, "We're going to go fight." So I get him his license. He goes and fights. He loses his first fight, loses his second fight, loses his third fight. And he keeps pushing. Eventually, he becomes number 3 in the country.
Oh, shit.
For USA boxing. He kept pushing. Then he told me, so everything this kid has told me, he's done. Yeah. So he told me, "I'm going to go to the Olympics. I'm going to go to the Olympic trials." He goes to the Olympic trials. Wow. He loses the Olympic trials. He told me halfway into his amateur career, "I'm going to get signed by Oscar De La Hoya." I go, "What are you talking about?" I go, "What are you talking? You didn't even have a pro fight." He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to get signed by Oscar." I go, "Okay." So I'm like, if you keep working and you keep going, eventually you're going to get there. You're every day you're improving. You're getting better. He was tough. He was getting better every day. I mean, he was sparring pros and doing good against them. So eventually, Oscar actually reached out to him on Instagram.
Yeah.
And asked him if he was willing to go pro.
Oh, shit.
And he was like, yeah, for sure. So he flew out to California because we lived in Florida at the time.
Yeah.
And he signed with Golden Boy Promotions.
Wow. And
now he's 7-0 with Golden Boy.
Is this Nico?
Nico Valdez.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
So so the point of the story is like, man, it's made me such a better fighter just being able to experience with him along the routes. He's had some other coaches and stuff, but I've always been his main coach.
Right.
Because obviously with my career going, like I couldn't find time all the time to train him.
Right.
So but for the most part, I've been his main coach and his main trainer.
Unbelievable. And I know you said before, and I think what you said before is very important to note, especially for somebody who's like a casual fan and doesn't really understand fighting. I'm a casual boxing fan for the most part. Yeah. I don't really know a lot about boxing, but I'll watch like the big, like I watched Ruiz and Joshua fight. What was that, 2 weeks ago? Last week?
Yeah.
Last week. Like when stuff like that happens. But the one thing that I know 100% for sure is people who go through like some crazy hardships, like in especially in the fighting community, end up being like terrors, like or living in like real rough and hard environments, like Dagestan or in America, sure. Like in parts of New Jersey or Detroit or California.
That's kind of the upbringing. I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York, so that's kind of the upbringing that I had. I was, I was in the rough areas of New York, so it was kind of like that. Fighting was just in my natural, like it was gonna happen. I was fighting every day in the street, like so it was gonna happen.
So in Nico's case, like he's never had a fucking rough day in his life.
Exactly.
So but what's important, where I said before, and where you come from that path too, right? Where you need hardship to get to a certain point. He embraced. So I think it's just like, yes, you need hardship, but it's just a matter of how you deal with it. So I think everyone gets a level of hardship in their lives, but Nico was presented that hardship in boxing, and he's clearly he's different than everyone else is.
Well, the thing is, I don't believe toughness is in your bank account. Like,
right.
Your amount of toughness doesn't come from how much money you have or don't have.
Right.
That has nothing to do with it. You know, like people think like, man, you know how many people that, you know, have no money, how many people I've seen quit that have no money.
Right.
Doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And you see people that are wealthy and they're pushing through. They don't quit. They keep going, even though they don't have a hard day. They keep going and pushing, achieving more towards what they get. So it doesn't have necessarily to do. It just has to do with your motivation. What kind of motivation you have, and that's something that's inside you. It's not something that counts it's not your bank account.
Although I will say though, having a good sized bank account, not having no worries, allows you to find those paths way easier than those kids. You know, like there's not a lot of people of color like in hockey because it's fucking expensive. You know what I mean? like it's expensive to do that shit.
For sure, you're able to do things that help you advance in your career and help you towards the right direction when you do have the funding. Right. You're able to go, you know, if I had the funding, I would go to Thailand tomorrow and go fucking become the best kicker, you know?
Right.
You're able to do these things that you aren't able to do if you don't have the bank account. Right. So, like, it is an easier path, but doesn't mean that it doesn't define your toughness.
Yeah, you still got to climb that mountain, right? Like, you still got to get to those levels.
So my point with that was that, so it made me a better fighter. And also it was a great experience for me because it was like, you know, I became really close. Like, he's like my brother. Like, he's like my younger brother. So I became really close with him and really caring for his success.
Right. Like,
pushing him. So that made me a better fighter because worrying about his success made me want to achieve my path as well.
Right.
So
can I see your T-shirt? Is that your name on? Is your new name on there?
Yeah, this is my name with it's Bronx Bomber Lazar Stojadinovic with the Serbian eagle.
Do you sell those?
I don't sell them.
You should. That's a dope ass shirt. I would buy that in a heartbeat.
Thank you. So I'll actually send you one and just shoot me your.
Oh Jesus.
I have a couple, so yeah, I'll shoot you one over.
That's amazing. So, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. So so for my fights, I'm really close with this guy. He owns a t-shirt company. He owns a Centro's t-shirt. Yeah. So he makes them for my fights. He was a client. He was a client of mine, and we became like brothers, man. We're really close. So he
mass produced that shit, man. That's a nice looking t-shirt. That's a really good sweet t-shirt.
It is. People love but when I make it for the fights, everybody starts they go like so fast. Everybody's like, I don't charge for that. I kind of send them, like, give it to them. You know, what am I gonna do? Like, if they're my fans, like.
Right. Hey, listen, it's promotion, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, Chevy is not a keychain place, but they got keychains everywhere. You know what I mean? So that's how you get your name out there.
Yeah, I was thinking about just having a website and just making it easier so I don't have to like, oh, do you want one? All right, let me send this in.
Right.
You just purchase it. Like, go ahead. It's not a big deal. You're like $20, $15.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Instagram's like the best forum for that now. Like, you can put anything on Instagram now.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you said Serbian? Like, this is a Serbian crest?
Yeah. So I'm Serbian and Dominican.
Oh,
it's crazy. Yeah. My mom's Dominican and my dad is Serbian.
Wow. That is a mix. Yeah. How did that happen? That's got to be a Bronx tale right there, 100%.
Yeah, New York. Only in New York something like that happened. For sure.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So, can you talk about that at all? Growing up in New York, because you've been all over. You've been in Florida, California. You've fought in different countries. So, tell me about that lifestyle that you had, beating motherfuckers up in the Bronx.
So man, just growing up in the Bronx, you know, it was like one of those bittersweet situations. When you think about it now, you're like, man, I wish I could go back in those times. Like, there were good times, you know, but yeah, you know, it was rough. You know, there was things also that came along with being raised there that you don't really want to deal with, you know. Right. Fighting every day like that was just part of my nature. Like, I was like, who's gonna fuck with me today, you know, like. Let's see who's gonna be. Like, it was like I embraced it too, you know. I wanted it as much as you did. Like, you don't want to do it, I wanted it. Like, it was part of my daily routine. You're
a pretty even keel guy. You seem very nice. You're smiling. You're happy. But you know, especially in the Jay Parson fight, right? So that guy was talking some spicy shit. I was watching the press conferences you guys were having before that fight, and man, he was. You know, you came out real professional, like, hey, you know, I'm not gonna talk shit. I'm gonna let him do his thing and let him believe the hype. And he came out hot. You gave a hot take, and they pan over to you, and I saw it. Like, there's a little fire, and you started getting after it. So I love that.
People don't understand. The reason I said that is because he was bothering me every day on social media.
Right.
Every day he was sending me signs. So I'm like, fuck this guy. Like, I just wanted to train and fight. Like, I didn't want to just get in a battle. Like. That's the thing is, like, I hate battling back and forth because, okay, when you're in the fight, even if you talk shit the day of the fight, that's fine because at the end of the day, I get to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. But, man, if you're getting under my skin, I might attack you before the fight, and the fight's not going to happen. So I'm like, fuck, man. I was nervous. I remember the press conference. I was like, man, I was, like, so nervous. You know, I don't get nervous for my fights. But I was so nervous because I was like, man, I'm going to end up attacking them. And they're going to, you know, I was like, the fucking athletic commission is going to cancel the fight.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in trouble. They're going to cancel it. They're going to suspend my license probably. So I was so nervous leading up to that. I was like, man, I was so close to attacking him.
He tried. Oh man, he was real disrespectful. And even when you scored that beautiful knockout. When was that, by the way? Was that in 2012?
That was 2012. Yeah.
2012. Okay, so you scored that beautiful knockout. You know, he's trying to recuperate, and you know, they have the mic in your face, and even after you've got that beautiful knockout, and you had all the platform in the world to like really just bury him, like just because you could, you didn't. You were exercised discipline and in defeat and in victory as well too. Even a spectacular victory too.
Well, I've always said this. I always said, like, man, you can really tell who somebody is when you fight them.
Right.
And I said after my interview, after the fight, I go, you could, even though the fight was 1 minute and 11 seconds, I could tell who he was.
Right.
You know, you could tell, like, his body language, or he was stiff, he was trying to wake up. He wanted to continue fighting. You know, he was tough.
Right.
So I can tell what kind of human being he was.
Right.
And if he would have just quit and like, you feel it when you fight somebody. You feel the quitter in them.
Right.
I have no respect for that. Then I could be like, "Fuck you, you're bum." Yeah. Like, but when I feel how passionate you are with it and how much you want it, you know, you got to feel some sympathy for that.
Right. Right, and I mean, you definitely show that, and it was a nice moment to have after even after all that crazy shit he was talking. But yeah, no, I mean, like, you broke it down pretty well, like, and I saw that's another fight that I saw on YouTube as well too. You know, he just, as soon as he felt the power and as soon as he felt your level of skill, like, he just stopped moving his head. Like, that's the thing when I'm watching these knockouts for you. People, they just stop moving your head. Like, well, if you're not gonna move your fucking head, I'm just gonna tee the fuck off on you.
Well, what I do a lot too is I attack the body a lot, which doesn't happen a lot in MMA.
Right.
So I attack the body, that stiffens you up to stand up straight, and I'm able to catch you after that.
Right. And in that particular scenario, that guy was a little bit bigger. He was like 5'9".
Yeah, he was
so
a big.
He's a bigger dude to be in a big frame. You can even see it in the pictures, and you just have no fear in your heart. Like, it's just not there. It just doesn't exist.
Well, the thing is, I mean, there's really nothing to be fearful for. That's kind of why I'm not even nervous when I fight. Is like, what's the worst that can happen? You get knocked out. Right. Okay, now I don't do this for anybody. I do it for myself.
Right.
So the embarrassment, I don't give a fuck about the embarrassment. I don't care about what people's opinions are of me. It doesn't bother me. So I'm not nervous about that. If I get knocked out, I get knocked. That sucks. Yeah, I got knocked out, but it's not something I can't deal with. Right. So there's no nerves going into a fight. Yeah, I want to win. I want to succeed. But as long as you're doing your work, you're not nervous. If you go into a fight of fat shit and you didn't train, then you could be nervous because you're like, fuck, I didn't do the work that I was supposed to do.
It's too late at that point.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't cheat your way, you know whether or not you cheated your way. That's really where the nerves come. When you know you did enough, then you have nothing to be nervous about.
Yeah, or I mean, some people just don't have it really. I remember watching like I don't remember. I think it might have been like The Ultimate Fighter or something. I mean, almost every season, someone's like, I don't think I can fucking do this shit. Like before they even get to like sparring or anything like that, they just drop out.
What I've noticed is for a lot of fighters is they don't want to deal with the embarrassment of being knocked down.
Right.
They really care about people's opinion of what, like, their embarrassment. Oh, I'm gonna go on social media and hear from. Like, I don't give a fuck about what people think. Like,
Right.
when I say it, like, some people say it. When I say it, I mean, I don't give a fuck. Like, your opinion of me doesn't matter whatsoever.
That's that tri-state area swag, man. I'm telling you. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York.
Cool. If you want to be a fan, cool. If you don't want to be a fan, then I don't give a fuck. Like, you're like you don't change my life, so.
Right. I mean, and then at the end of the day, like, you know, it shows like you're still out here doing it, and you're doing it at a very good pace, at a very good level. So it's amazing. You're very entertaining to watch, man. Very entertaining to watch.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, man. It's you know, I just love fighting, man. It's something that. What I love about it most is like you really could be free. Like I feel free when I'm fighting. When I'm outside in society, living my regular life.
Yeah.
Feel trapped. I feel like I gotta be somebody I'm not.
Right.
But when I'm out there and when I'm fighting in the cage, I'm free to actually be who I am.
Yeah, it's the best form of expression, expressing yourself through your skill level. Like
exactly, yeah. So it's something I've always felt like that. I've always had that sense of freedom in there. I love it, man.
That's crazy, man. And you do it on fucking short notice all the time. So what's Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've taken some fights. You know, I've even fought an open weight tournament, which is not on my record.
Yeah.
I fought an open weight tournament, 3 fights in one night.
What does that mean? What is an open weight tournament?
It means no weight class. So I fought guys who were 190, 200 pounds, 220. Like one of the guys I fought actually was like 210. He fought in the UFC. His name was Julio Paulino.
Uh-huh.
And I fought him in the 3rd round. It was a disqualification on his end. He hit me behind the head, and then went to the scorecards. But I ended up winning the whole tournament, and I went in there at 160 pounds.
Oh my god, that's some game of death shit, man.
Yeah, it ended up not going on my record because the guy who threw it ended up losing his promoter's license actually because it was before Chicago had sanctioning, so he had pros fighting as amateur.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So because it wasn't sanctions, pros weren't allowed to compete in Chicago.
Oh wow!
So if he had an amateur tournament, it would have been fine. But he had pros competing not without a sanctioning body, so no commission. It was like, and you can't fight 3 times in one night.
That's some of the craziest shit I've ever heard in my whole life.
It was like it was weird. It was like an underground thing, but it was in the I forget what it was, the Hyatt hotel. It was like in a legit hotel. It was a legit event. But it was like underground.
Did you guys dip your hand wraps in petroleum jelly and put glass in it and fight to the death also?
But yeah, it was crazy. The first round, I ended up fighting this 6'3" Shidokan champion who was like 185 pounds. And I remember I threw a couple punches. He threw a leg kick at me, and it was like the heaviest leg kick I ever felt. I clenched his body, I tripped him, I took him down, and then he like reversed, tried to get on top, and I put him in a guillotine.
Oh my god.
And he popped his head out, and he threw a couple hammer fists, and I grabbed his arm and put him in the arm bar.
Oh my god.
So then I was like, man, everybody was silent because when we were in the weigh-ins, even though it was open weight, everybody had to weigh in.
Yeah.
And everybody laughed when I weighed in because I was 160 pounds. Everybody's like, and all these giants I was fighting were like 200 pounds, 185. Yeah. So then the second round comes in, and I'm fighting this guy who was like 5'8", but like 210. He's just he was actually a Greco-Roman champion.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I'm fighting him. First round comes in. I sparred him prior to our fight.
Okay.
He trained at Extreme Couture in Chicago.
Okay.
And I sparred him, just pure boxing, and I beat the dog shit out of him. And when we come out, I threw a jab. He clinched me, flipped me, threw me down.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I just held him. He was ground and pounding me, but I was just holding him. So the bell rings. Second round comes. And I'm like, man, I got to throw something that counts because he's going to take me down.
Yeah.
100% he's going to take me down.
Right.
So I remember I threw a head kick, and he dipped his head, and it caught him. Boom, and it busted
his ridge line? Yep.
Yeah, right over the bridge line. So then he's on the floor, he's bleeding all over me, the blood's going everywhere. My face was bloody when I got up because he was on top of me for 3 minutes. It was 3-minute rounds. So he was on top of me, he was bleeding, he was grounding, pounding me. It was in the ring, so I started shrimping my butt out.
Yeah.
We got out of the ring, we stand up. So then when we stand up again, he suplexes me. The bell rings, third round comes, we start fighting, he takes me down again. He's bleeding all over, and I started elbowing his cut. I kept elbowing from the bottom.
Opening it up?
Yeah, just opening up, but he kept bleeding. The referee stopped it, had the doctor check. Yeah, and they just stopped it.
Holy
so I'm like,
shit.
fuck, I made it to the last round. I have one more guy to go. Now, mind you, my arms are jello because I just fought this fucking guy that had to hold down for 9 minutes.
It's fucking 210 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. I was like holding his body.
Yeah.
And the third round comes in. This guy's the biggest guy. He's 6'1", and he's like 200 pounds. Now, he fought in the UFC at 170, but this was off season technically because he didn't have to make weight. So he was around 200 pounds, 210. And I remember like we started moving around and my arms were just, I was hitting him and my arms were like just bouncing off of him because they were so jello-y.
Yeah. And
I was like, man, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, so I'm kind of moving around and outboxing him. The round goes, second round comes, and I keep doing the same thing. I'm outboxing him. I keep boxing him. He takes me down. I get back up, and I keep doing the same thing. Keep kicking him, moving around, moving around. Third round comes. I start doing the same thing, but I end up in a clinch. And I don't know why I tried this. I tried to belly to back suplex him. And instead of belly to back suplex, now I've hit this move on actual heavyweights. Yeah. I've hit that belly to back suplex.
Right.
But I was so exhausted that when I did it, I just fell.
Okay.
And he ended up on top of me.
Oh no.
So now I turn to give my back and I try to get up and he's on top of me. He starts hammer fisting the back of my head. He hammer fisted me about 10 times behind the head. The referee stops it, they check the replay, they stop the fight, and then they go to scorecards, and I was up on the scorecards, so I ended up winning.
Right.
Fight by disqualification / decision.
Right.
It was a weird format. So we split the money, the winning money at the end, because the referee kind of stopped it.
Yeah.
But then they went to the replay and they saw there was back of the head shots. But once a referee calls it, he really calls it. You know, that's it. They can't change it. But in this format, there was really no sanctioning body, no commission. So they kind of did whatever the fuck they wanted. So when they saw the replay, they were like, and my head was all red behind. Yeah. They saw the replay, they were like, all right, you got to split the money. You obviously illegally hit him, but you technically won because the referee stopped it.
Right.
So we ended up splitting the money, which wasn't bad. I made 10 grand.
Oh,
I was the happiest 18. I was 18 years old at the time. I was like 10 grand. I was like, it was the most money I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God.
I was like, hell yeah.
That was some crazy Fight Club shit you were involved in.
So what happened was I was on the internet, right?
Yeah.
And I see the 9-man tournament, 20 grand to the winner. I go, fuck, I'll fight anybody for 20 grand. I'll fight Brock Lesnar for 20 grand. You kidding me? I go, so then the guy writes to me, he's like, yeah, but it's open weight. I go, I don't give a fuck who you got there. I'll fight 20 grand. I'll fight. Let's go.
Oh shit.
So yeah, that's how it ended up happening. I was just like, yeah, I'll fight anybody. You give me 20 grand.
Fucking crazy.
Mike Tyson, I'll fight. I don't care.
Jesus Christ. And I know, as much as that doesn't count, that's some of the most fucking hard-nosed shit I ever heard in my entire life. So you were living in Chicago at that time?
I was living in Chicago at that time, yeah, because once I was moving back and forth, and once I started like taking my MMA career real serious, New York wasn't this place for me at the time. Yeah. New York had no MMA gyms around.
That's recent, right? I mean, like, it's been a recent thing. They haven't had any MMA in New York until like the last 5 years, right? 6 years.
For sure. Yeah, that's recent. So I was like, man, I gotta move, you know. And the Midwest was really a place for me because I don't come from a wrestling background. New York has no wrestlers.
Midwest got some good fucking wrestlers out there.
Yeah, up in upstate there's wrestling, but in where I'm from there was no wrestling. Against school there was no wrestling ever. Right. I wish there was.
No, I mean in the Midwest. The Midwest got some of the best fucking wrestling colleges in the country.
Exactly. But the thing that I made the mistake is, so I started my career right away. Like I turned pro after I had 2 amateur MMA fights, and I remember when they found out how old I was, they suspended me until I turned 18 because I was 15 for my first MMA fight.
Jesus Christ.
I fought a 26-year-old. I was 15 years old.
Right.
And I got away with it because my dad was there. He signed off that I was 18. He was like, yeah, he's 18. I was like, I don't have an ID, but I'm 18. and they really didn't have time because it was like super late. It was like an hour we had to fight.
Right.
Because the guys missed weight. So they kind of took my dad's word for it. Then my second fight, I did the same thing. And afterwards, I don't know if my coach at the time, because I lost to a wrestler. I ended up, what happened was my coach at the time told me I was fighting 135 pounds.
Right.
I died down to 135 pounds. My opponent comes, he's 165 pounds.
Oh my God.
So they're like, I'm like, who the hell? I'm supposed to fight this 135. I was supposed to fight 135 Taekwondo guy. Okay. I go, this guy's 165 pound jiu-jitsu guy. He was a brown belt at the time, the guy I fought. So I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. I'll fight.
Clearly, you're fighting 210-pound dudes in Chicago out here.
So it was same day weigh-ins. I just started drinking a bunch of water. I ate. I had like 2 hours left to the fight, so I ate something. And I ended up weighing like 146 pounds. And they let the fight happen. And I ended up losing a decision. I dropped the guy like 4 times. And he kept just taking me down. So then they found out how old I was. I think he told them how old I was, and they suspended me. They were like, yeah, you can't fight till you're 18. I was 16 at the time.
Right.
And I was like, fuck, like, that sucks. So I was fighting amateur boxing. I was taking amateur boxing fights. I was like, okay, I'll just box until I could fight. And then as soon as I turned 18, I was like, man, I'm not fighting amateur. I'm not going to go back. I want to make some money now. So I went straight pro. Yeah. But the problem was I was boxing, so I wasn't wrestling at that time. So I just was taking fights against these wrestlers with no wrestling experience. Oh, God. So I was winning some, losing some. If you could see in the beginning of my career, I was literally one loss.
Right.
That's the way the pattern went.
I mean, you were literally learning the sport in your teenage years.
So the way it's hilarious because the way it actually happened was I won my first fight. Then my second fight, I got submitted with a triangle. And then my third fight, I submitted a guy with the triangle that I learned from getting submitted in the fight. Like, the reason I did that move was because I got submitted with it. I was like, oh, I'll try this shit. Like, that's how it happened. But
high fight IQ, man. Listen, you learn from your mistakes, and then you fucking bring the shit to the table. Exactly.
So then at some point, we had a restaurant in Chicago at the same time that I was fighting. My dad opened up a restaurant. And as I started getting more involved in MMA, and I had a falling out with my coach at the time, he sold his restaurant. We opened up a gym. So in my gym, there was no coaches. It was just me, my dad. My dad's a fighter too. He's a good karate, karate and sambo. So he knows some stuff. But I was like, man, I at some point in my career, I lost to Pat Curran. Okay. And then I was like, man, I gotta find a home gym. I gotta train somewhere that has a team behind them. I can have sparring. I can have, I can learn jiu-jitsu more because my jiu-jitsu at that time was terrible. Like, I was learning from getting submitted, literally. So then I knew this guy from the boxing tournament. So when I was suspended from MMA and I was fighting amateur boxing, I met this guy Dino in the amateur fights. The amateur box fight. He was there with some of his fighters, and I met him. He was always really nice to me. So then he had a gym, and it was in Palatine, Illinois, which was a little far from me. And I was like, I told my dad, I'm gonna go there. So my dad had a falling out with his partner, so they split the gym, and I went there and started training with him. His name's Dino Spencer. He owns Fifth Street Gym in Miami now, and I started training there, and he was the one that was like, man, you got to start like wrestling and doing jiu-jitsu. Like, you can't just get away with your hands. And he had me go to Harper College, which was they had a really good team there.
I've heard of that college before.
Yeah, it's a really good wrestling team they have there. I was going there for like 3 years, working like I was going to the college. Like, I would go there and do their whole schedule. I would run with them. train with them. I would wrestle with them. I would do everything like I was competing in wrestling.
How does that work out if you're not a student there?
They just let me. I went
shit.
there. I said, yeah, I went there. I talked to the coach. I forget his name. Uh, Jason Kelly, I think his name. That was just a while ago, so my memory's bad.
Hey, extra bodies for practice. I understand it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So he was a really cool guy, man. He was like, yeah, you can come. I went there. I asked him. He was like, yeah, you can come anytime you want. You know, just help us along, and we'll help you as much as we can. So I used to go there every day, and then I was working jiu-jitsu with Caprito Medeiros at the time, who was a 7-time world champion jiu-jitsu, and my jiu-jitsu was on point. And then I fought for the King of the Cage title. I fought Matt Jaggers in a rematch after I submitted him,
Right.
and I knocked him out. And then I defended my title. I lost, and I lost again. And I was kind of out of I was like, man, I can't believe, I lost when I flew out to New Mexico in the 10,000 feet altitude. And then I lost when I tried to cut to 135 again at some point in my career. And I lost, and I was like, man, before I had excuses like why I lost. I felt like before it was like, okay, I don't know how to wrestle, I don't know how to do jiu-jitsu. But then at that point in my career, I was like, I'm good at everything. There's no reason I should be losing to these guys. The weight cut was bad, and obviously the 10,000 feet altitude was bad. So I was kind of like, I was down, and then I talked to my coach a little bit. He's like, listen, I'm leaving Chicago and I'm going to Miami. I'm going to open up a gym. If you want, you can come with me. And I was like, yeah, you're my coach. I'm going to go with you. So we ended up going to Florida, and he was supposed to take over this gym. It didn't work out. And then we were walking down the street one day, and he's like, how cool would it be if I reopened the 5th Street gym? And I was like, where Muhammad Ali trained. I was like, that would be awesome. So he got on the phone. He got in touch with Angelo Dundee, and Angelo Dundee being Muhammad Ali's trainer. He's like, yeah, we'll be partners.
Wow.
So then they were partners, and I was there helping them build the gym. And then at some point I was like, man, I need to find like a MMA gym. So I didn't know that Coconut Creek, Florida was so far from Miami. So we were in Miami in the boxing gym, and ATT was in Coconut Creek.
Right.
I didn't know that at the time when I first moved there. I was like, people were asking me, where are you going to train? I'm like, ATT, we're going to Miami. Nobody told me like, hey, that's not in Miami. That's in Coconut Creek, which is far.
Yeah.
So I get there, and I go on my phone. I'm like, ATT, an hour away. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I got no car there, no nothing.
Yeah.
So I ended up booking a fight, and I'm like, man, I can't get there. Like, I don't know what to do. So, I was just pure boxing for the fight, and I ended up winning the fight. And then after that fight, I finally got a car transportation and stuff, and I was going back and forth to ATT. This was 9 years ago, and then that kind of changed the path of everything. That's where I went on my tear for 7 years, 8 years on a 9-fight win streak, and then obviously I had the 2-year gap with my shoulder injury and stuff like that. But that's where it kind of changed my whole career there.
Right. Wow.
So
and I saw on your Instagram too as well. That's a really beautiful gym. They had was it neon lights where it said on the wall.
Oh yeah, the 5th Street gym. Yeah, world famous 5th Street gym. Yeah, it's a super cool gym, man. They've had some location changes. Like when we first opened up, we were on Washington and 5th, which is the original location. Then Miami being the way it is, they kicked us out for CVS. Fucking that's there's no culture in Miami. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna put an H&M in this theater that has so much culture. That's how they do it over there. So yeah, they moved us out. Then we reopened on 14th and Alton, and then that kind of expired out, at least there. So now they're back on 5th and Lenox, I think it is.
Okay.
It's cool though. They're back open. The location is better. I feel it's cool.
That's great.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
Yeah, I still go back and forth for camps and stuff. My coach, it's a kind of a weird situation I'm in now.
Right.
I'm looking for a coach, but it also because I'm in California, obviously I'm no longer in Miami.
Right.
So when I'm training with these guys, and they start telling me oh, you see, this is working, I hate to give those guys credit. I'm so loyal to my coach, that it bothers me that these guys got to get credit for stuff that he's worked so hard You know? But it's just it sucks because I'm stuck in that situation where I'm here. You know, I gotta find a coach.
You got to do it. Like you're out there in California. It's like you got to stay sharp. I mean, they understand. I'm sure. You know, at the same time, like.
No, yeah, he understands. Like we're really, really close. Like we talk every day almost and stuff like that. We're close. It's just a sucky situation. Like I'm like, damn, can you move to California?
Open up that Miami gym out here in California.
Yeah, he loves Miami, so he's like, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah, it's hard to leave. It's hard to leave Miami, right? Like it's a beautiful place.
I mean, for me, I was so happy to leave. I was like, because when I moved to Miami, I originally wanted to move to California.
Right.
Like that was my place where I've always wanted to live in California. So
you live in LA, you said, right?
Well, now I live in Orange County.
Okay.
I lived in LA last year, and I moved in December to Orange County because the training lab was here, where TJ Dillashaw trains and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was here. So I've had some crappy luck. Like literally, when I signed my lease, they moved their gym. Like they closed down the gym. So I kind of been like they're training in another location right now where they're holding the training at a different gym.
Right.
So it's working out, but they're supposed to build a new facility close by again. Okay. So that's good.
That's good.
Good. For sure.
Well, that's just about everything I have on this awesome Sunday. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy ass crazy schedule.
I've been pretty relaxed now. Like my schedule hasn't been so hectic. So I train my guy in the morning, and then my two guys. I have two clients that I train in the morning, the boxer, and then another guy I train. And then I just train once in the morning, and I'm pretty much free all day. Like my day's been calm lately. Like until I get back into camp, It doesn't get hectic. Once I'm back in camp, it's a hectic situation.
Are you itching? Are you itching though to get back into the swing of things?
Yeah, I can't wait to fight, man. Hopefully, I'm hoping the end of August. Let's see. I'm really trying to get something going. I really want to get rid of this nasty feel I got on me.
I feel you, man. I feel you, man. And then listen, this is your forum to talk about whatever you want, whenever you want to come back on. I had a great time. Thank you again. Like I said before, I can't be more grateful. And Nico is an awesome dude. He hooked me up with Lazar here. First round management's the shit. They the first round's making some crazy ass moves out here. They signed that guy Cosmo that knocked out Sage. They got Yo Romero off.
Yeah,
crazy $27 million shit.
That's insane, man. Yeah, they're doing some good stuff. First round is legit. They're doing some.
Man. Yeah, but yeah, thank you again, man. Is there anything that you need to plug as far as like your own boxing, like you do your own personal training and stuff like that, or follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, my Instagram Bronx Bomber 145, Facebook Bronx Bomber. I got to change it. It's actually Bronx Bomber 135 on Facebook. Okay. I got to change that. I'm not making 135 again.
We're done with that. We're done with that.
Yeah, it's too much. Like I've always been a big kid and stuff. Like that's the thing is like I'm not like people didn't understand. Like oh you're small. Like man, when I'm walking around at 65 pounds, that's me dieting. Like I gotta try to be at that weight. Like I easily get up to 200, no problem. I've always been a chubby big kid.
Oh, I'm that same way. I'm like 239 pounds right now. I'm 5'7". Yeah. It's not good. It's not a good look.
Yeah, so people were like, that's how I get. It's like, it's so easy for me. Like, people don't understand that. They're like, oh, why don't you fight, when they see me at like 160, they're like, oh, why don't you fight at 135? I'm like, this is me trying.
I'm trying my best, bro.
Yeah, you don't understand. Yeah. This is blown trying. Like for me to make 135, I can't have one day where I eat anything. I cheat out.
Dude, the struggle is so real. The struggle is so real. Dude, I can diet so hard. I haven't been below 200 pounds since like 4th grade.
Damn, yeah, that's how I am. I mean, I work with like I said, I work with perfecting athletes, and they do a great job. They get my schedule for eating and stuff like that down packed, and the weight falls off. But man, it's a struggle. It's not easy for me to stay low. Like there's normal guys that fight 135, they don't get heavier than 155. Like I talk to them, they're like, oh man, I've been cheating like crazy. I'm like, how much do you weigh? 155 pounds. I'm like, bro,
yo, fuck off.
155 is me like strict dieting. I'm like I go up right away after my fights.
Yeah, you know, also that's probably why, like, when you fighting those 210-pound guys, like, whatever, like, you know, like I can get close to that weight anyway. I'm used to that shit.
Yeah.
I
So it's
understand.
for me, it's like that's the thing that I kind of. And the other thing is like I looked at my track record, so I was like, man, at 145, I think I'm 9-1. My only loss being on the Dana White Contender Series at 145.
Right.
Prior to that, all my losses were at 155. You know, so the way I look at it, I'm like, okay, so at 155, I think I'm 2-1 or 2-2 or
Right.
1-2 or something like that. At 145, I'm 9-1, and then at 135, I'm 0-2.
Right.
Like that
It's the
doesn't make
math,
sense.
right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And why would it? And I always felt at 145 when I clinched up with these guys because people were always worried about. It's obviously not my boxing. My boxing, I'm able to stand up with anybody.
Right.
But when I clinch up with them, they've always been worried like, oh, they're gonna be bigger and stronger. But I've never grabbed the 145er and been like, oh man, I feel out muscled. I've never felt that. I understood if I would have felt that, then I would be like, all right, cool, I should drop so I can be the stronger guy.
Right.
But it's not my style, one. It's not my style to be that kind of grinder fighter.
Yeah.
Like, if I was a grinder wrestler, then it would make sense for me to go down 35 so I could be the bigger, stronger, grinder. Yeah. But that's not my style. My style is to be the faster, pick them apart, catch them, and I have power in my hands so I'm able to hurt even bigger guys. So that's my style. So it's only made sense for me to stay at 145.
I fuck with it. I like it, man. Well, I wish you the best in your journey, man. You're welcome whenever you need to text me or want another interview or whatever the case may be. Whatever it is, just reach out to me. I'm not always available. I work during the day, but when I can get back, yeah. I have family. My uncle is a police officer in Oxnard, California. So next time I go visit him, maybe I'll drop by the gym.
Yeah, shoot me up for sure, man.
Hell yeah. All right, thank you so much, LeVar, for your time. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Anytime, brother. Anytime. I'll see you later.
Take care, man.
Peace.